Et c'est pourquoi aujourd'hui, nous sommes en train de manifester pour leur dire qu'ils doivent partir. Dans les cas contraires, ils risqueront de laisser leur peau ici en République démocratique du Congo.
The Democratic Republic of Congo has been plagued by violence and instability for decades. The United Nations Peacekeeping Mission, Monusco, was established 25 years ago to bring peace and security to the region. However, recent revelations have exposed a shocking truth about the mission's operations. Monusco, led by Bintou Keita, has been funding organizations that promote hate speech and incite violence, corrupting them to keep quiet about the mission's failures, and to justify its continued presence in the DRC. Prominent members of LUCHA, who instigated the hate campaign, provoked widespread acts of violence. How does Monusco contribute to the ongoing violence and instability in the region? There are over 200 armed groups committing violence and furthering instability in the DRC. In 1999, MONUC, which was renamed Monusco in 2010, was created to protect civilians, stabilize the country, and facilitate humanitarian assistance. With over $1 billion in US dollars annual cost and 19,000 military and civilian personnel deployed, Monusco is one of the largest and most expensive UN peacekeeping missions in the world. Despite its presence, violence and instability continue to plague the region. Monusco is turning a blind eye to the Congolese army integrating armed militias, who are recruiting child soldiers. Building on popular discontent about standards of living and insecurity, LUCHA, founded in 2012 to promote social justice and non-violence, became vocal in its criticisms against Monusco. A turning point took place in 2021 when LUCHA activists began explicitly disseminating hate speech and conspiracy theories of balkanization and territorial invasion. This led to targeted killings, mob lynchings, cannibalism, looting, and the destruction of property belonging to the Congolese Tutsi. In July 2022, within the context of growing xenophobia, LUCHA funded, planned, and executed violent demonstrations against the Monusco, resulting in the death of peacekeepers and the Congolese citizens and the destruction of UN facilities. In response, Monusco, rather than promoting peace and security by holding accountable LUCHA activists responsible for the violence, began partnering with, supporting, and funding the group through various satellite organizations, namely the Uhuru Knowledge Center. As a result, Monusco has been whitewashing LUCHA's campaign of xenophobia, while LUCHA has turned silent about Monusco's failure to protect the Congolese people. The Uhuru Knowledge Center, created by Jean-Marie Mushingenia and Mikau Kalamau Bauma, brother of Fred Bauma, who is the founder of LUCHA, comprises several LUCHA members, including many known for spreading xenophobic hate speech. The new partnership between Monusco and LUCHA was designed to whitewash the negative image of Monusco, accused of inefficacy, and LUCHA's reputation as a hate civil society group. To restore its public image, Monusco created a false anti-disinformation campaign while remaining silent about the growing xenophobia and violence targeting Congolese Tutsi and Rwandophones, the primary victims of hate speech in the DRC. Despite numerous warnings by the UN Office on Genocide Prevention and by Security Council member states, Monusco has failed to denounce the hate rhetoric targeting Rwandophones.
La France condamne par ailleurs les discours de haine ciblant certaines communautés Tutsi.
I reiterate the need to call out hate speech vilifying Rwandophone communities and peacekeepers alike. This speech has led to arbitrary killings, mob violence, and harassment.
We hope that confidence-building measures will prevail over hate speech and public discourse.
The Monusco Uhuru Knowledge Center partnership is part of a new project of investment in the communications initiated by Jean-Pierre Lacroix, under the Secretary General for Peace Operations, who on July 28, 2022, following the anti-Monusco violence, pledged to fight against what he called hate messages, fake news, and disinformation. This announces the onset of Monusco's public image promotion campaign, which ignores a much deeper issue targeting stigmatized communities in the DRC.
Nous avons eu cette expérience très malheureuse et ces incidents tragiques du 25-26 juillet l'année dernière et qui ont très clairement montré que nous étions sous-équipés, pas équipés pour lutter contre la mésinformation, désinformation et les fake news d'une certaine manière. Donc le 4 août, nous avons eu une réunion entre la mission et les principaux ici, comme on dit. Et à la suite de ça, on s'est rendu compte qu'en fait, il nous fallait monter une machinerie de guerre, entre guillemets. On a fait des décisions recruter des experts dans le domaine de notre présence sur les plateformes digitales. On a aussi monté en puissance sur les produits multimédia.
Under the disguise of a so-called anti-disinformation program, Monusco supports LUCHA's hate speech campaign, which targets Tutsi-perceived communities, victims of ethnic cleansing in DRC. In her January 24th statement, the UN Special Advisor on Genocide Prevention, Elise Deritu, declared that the United Nations have recently discovered mass graves in Ituri, where the Lendu-led militia, Codeco, have since 2017 been attacking and killing the Hema, whom they see as foreigners and assimilate them to the Tutsi. Hence, Special Advisor Deritu warned that the conditions necessary for the commission of atrocity crimes continue to be present in the region, and that civilians are being massacred based on ethnic identity yet again, in reference to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. On June 12th, despite the numerous warnings by the Office on Genocide Prevention regarding risk of atrocity crimes, less than 5 kilometers from a Monusco base in Ituri, a massacre of 46 Hema, half of whom children, was committed by Codeco in the Lala refugee camp. Monusco's inactions in the face of such a tragedy highlights its complicity with atrocity crimes committed in DRC. Meanwhile, Monusco supports a civil society group responsible for inciting violence, thus remaining passive to the Congolese people's demands for protection and justice. The revelations about Monusco's whitewashing campaign in the DRC have compromised the mission's operations and contributed to the ongoing violence and instability in the region. By funding a hate civil society group to protect its reputation and remain in the Congo, Monusco has deviated from its original objective to fight against local and foreign negative forces that have proliferated on Monusco's watch, particularly the FDLR, comprised of the remnants of the force responsible for the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. The active support of LUCHA by Monusco has led to an exacerbation of hate speech, xenophobic attacks, and the continuation of ethnic cleansing of Congolese Rwandophones. Monusco thus perpetuates impunity of actors of hate speech and violence whose actions have targeted Congolese minorities and have led to the death of peacekeepers and Congolese civilians. The United Nations, through its peacekeeping mission, Monusco, have therefore failed to provide the conditions for lasting peace in DRC.